It's contagious.
And to a certain extent, it's not Luke's story anymore. Tell the story, but it's not Luke's story anymore.
I'm just going to break in here and make sure that everybody out there realizes he is so significantly important to this next film. You have no idea. He is so significantly important to the next.
Brutal. Oh man, that's funny.
So. Chris Cassidy, was that just some editing to tell the story that the creator wanted? I'm sorry, I should have gotten that creator's written. I should have wrote their name down. That made that entire full length clip that I just took the portion of, so I could give you proper credit. But anyway, was the creator telling the story he wanted to tell about Kathleen Kennedy there, or was it really something there going on? Was she really not pleased with Mark and trying to, get him to shut up?
I think she recognized what was at stake. People were dying for Luke Skywalker at that point. The only thing they had from him from the Force Awakens was just the cliffhanger. So everyone was like, and then the Luke that we got is part of what a lot of people had a problem with that movie was just like, now that's kind of simplifying it, but I think she recognized at that moment she has to say like, this is going to be, but she, something I'll say about her is that I noticed on like red carpets and like other things, she'll just say whatever she comes into her head at the moment, whether or not it's like on the red carpet of Solo, she's like, yes, we're making a Lando movie. And at that point, like everything was scrapped. Now they're coming out with a Lando something, but everything was scrapped from that. And it's when they were trying to promote the final movie after The Last Jedi, it was like, we've got to just say whatever we can to convince people to go see this movie. It was a tough job, but also it was her responsibility to be the one that like made all these things connect. And whether you like the sequel trilogy or you like certain episodes of it or whatever, you have to be able to see that it was kind of just disjointed. They were disjointed movies. They didn't connect as well as the other episodic films. And to me, looking at it from a filmmaking point of view, The Last Jedi especially is just like, it's not in, and I think this is why a lot of people actually did like it. The people that did like it, it's not like the other episodic films. It's different than that. But the whole thing is, like, if you're telling a saga, you can't get up to episode 8 and then suddenly flip the script and then on episode 9 try and go back to, it's like, it's jumbled. And so that's part of the thing. Like if we're, and Kathleen Kennedy, that's why I think she might be a better producer than like the head of the studio. But we can get into that.
Yeah, and we will get into that on this 151st show of Thunder Pop. I've got the one and only from Geek News Now, YouTube sensation. There it is, GNN.
Geek News Now, baby.
News Now. And he hosts the wonderful show on Monday nights every week, MCU Mondays.
MCU Mondays. All
Chris Cassidy.
MCU. So happy to be here. Thank you so much, everyone.
On a Friday night, TGIF, what better way to spend your Friday night than with the two of us?
I can't possibly think of one.
I can't. Can you?
No.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking Kathleen Kennedy, and I've got a story about Kathleen Kennedy. We're going to ask the question in the Thunder Pop, in the Thunder Take, to open the show. We're going to ask the question, did Kathleen Kennedy actually save movies? Chris Cassidy? In the Thunder Take, I will ask you that question, and I'll have a setup for it. It recently, a very positive story about Kathleen Kennedy. She needs some good press because she doesn't always get good press, I think. Well, at least social media doesn't always give her a good press. But yeah, she got some good press recently because thanks to Netflix, of all things, and the Movies That Made Us season 2 and the Jurassic Park episode. I'm gonna tell you that story, and I'll ask you the question from that story: is she underrated, possibly? And then we'll get into the Star Wars. Where is she now? Where do things stand with her now? And my opinions has evolved over time on her whole status as
Good.
the head of Star Wars. It's
You should
evolved.
be able to have evolving opinions.
Yes. Yes.
You learn new things, your opinion changes. That's a good thing. I value that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, not everybody thinks that way. Not everybody thinks that way. So we'll get into that. Also, Chris Cassidy coming from Marvel MCU Mondays. I got some MCU talk for you. I want to ask you about that episode, not this week's episode, but last week's episode.
Zombies.
What If? Yes, Zombie Avengers. It was one of the most anticipated episodes pre-season that was being talked about. I remember it being brought up on your show early on. Debbie brought it up saying, "Oh, I can't wait for or was you?" Somebody brought up zombies and said,
we were all like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And finally we get the zombies, but there's been some new developments on the Zombie Avenger front. That's pretty exciting. I don't know if you already know this story, but I'll tell you, it came from the one and only Mark Miller, creator of Kingsman and many other stories in the movie superhero genre. So yes, we're going to be got some new news for you, breaking news on that. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll have our opening and yeah, let's just do it.
It's time for Thunder Pop. Don't make me say it again. Thunder Pop, Thunder Pop, Thunder Pop. I will not say it again. Thunder Pop. Okay, I lied. Thunder Pop, Thunder Pop, Thunder Pop. Oh, Thunder Pop.
151. I got the one and only Chris Cassidy next to me.
Original number of Pokemon episode. Yeah. 151, baby.
So many reasons. And and here it is. Kathleen Kennedy saved Jurassic Park. We're gonna dive into this. So on the latest episode, or one of the latest episodes from season 2 of the Movies That Made Us, a story came up in the Jurassic Park episode that they did, because this year they did Forrest Gump, Jurassic Park, Pretty Woman, and then there was a fourth one. And also, by the way, get ready, because there's a third season, or the new season's coming up in October, where they're going to tackle horror films.
Oh,
4 horror classics is going to be covered by the show that I love, Movies That Made Us. They did holidays last year. They did a holiday with Christmas movies. Now they're going to do one with Halloween horror movies this year. So story came up. Kathleen Kennedy, of course, was well known for being the right-hand person to Steven Spielberg for many years through E.T., Jurassic Park, many of his great films. And Steven Spielberg, both Steven Spielberg and George Lucas credited her for a lot of the greatness that went on behind the scenes. Well, story came up, when they were filming the first Jurassic Park movie, even with Steven Spielberg at the helm, it was a bit of a risk, because at the time, dinosaur movies had been kind of extinct. No pun intended, but pun certainly intended there. Yeah, dinosaur movies had been a little laugh track there. Yeah, dinosaur movies had been extinct for a number of years, and then they start to work on Jurassic Park. And even when Jurassic Park was approached in pre-production, it was an evolving idea of how they were going to execute bringing the dinosaurs to life. Now it's a no-brainer. They go straight to the computers they have and the technology they have available in 2021, and it's an easy breezy job. But they actually had to innovate quite a bit to be able to get the dinosaurs the way they wanted to get them for this movie. And they talk about that in this episode. That's one of the more interesting parts of this story, is how they went from the original plan of they were going to do the old fashioned stop motion stuff.
Mhm.
And they had brought in one of the best stop motion guys in the business, but he comes in, but there's another guy with computers in a dark tunnel room that was determined to bring those dinosaurs to life with computers, and also put this man simultaneously out of work as a result of his innovations. The poor guy ends up becoming extinct. I'm going to enough of that. I promise I won't do any more.
Well, you're just going to work on Tim Burton movies or someone who uses that aesthetic. But you're right. No, I mean, like, that was the kind of thing, claymation. That was what they were doing. Some of the stuff with Star Wars with, or stop motion and models and things like that. Like, that was how you did it. You shot it to scale. And they actually did a lot of stuff like that, tricks like that, even in Jurassic Park and in things like Lord of the Rings, especially like forced perspective and using those kind of visual tricks because of the medium to make these things possible. But I like to think of like the time between probably like Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings is kind of like the golden age of like movie graphics, because not because they're like the best, like, are they better now with computers? Like, yeah, but this was like the computers were getting good enough that they could use it for things like Lord of the Rings is a great example. When they needed to, they would use CGI, but so many practical effects were used for everything else, from like makeup to, and you can see the difference in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, because even so far as the Hobbit, they used a lot more CGI stuff and to me, I still prefer like the Lord of the Rings and that kind of era of stuff. Now, is that just because I grew up with that? Like, I grew up on Independence Day and Twister and that mixture, and that's what feels, maybe that's part of it, but I really value those practical effects and things like that, which is one of the things I actually liked about The Force Awakens when it came out. Was that they went back to that like mix, and Lucasfilm's best in the business with both special effects and practical effects. So,
well, people called for it when Force Awakens was going to come out, and they were so thrilled when J.J. Abrams announced we're going to be using practical effects, going back into that way of doing things. And then, like you said, they do still CGI where it works. But after what George Lucas had done with the prequels, where he went all in with CGI and animation, of course, he invented a lot of that. So he wanted to show off his new toys.
Exactly,
as George loved to do whenever he had a chance. And he
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why when people ask him, like, why did you make the first battle on Hoth, like, in that movie, like, why'd you shoot it all in snow? And it was literally because when he made Star Wars, people were like, well, anyone can do that against a black background. So he was like, fine, here's a white one and lasers. But he was all about like pushing that technology forward.
We got some breaking news. Actually, I've got some footage from actual Lucasfilm meeting. Kathleen Kennedy overseeing a meeting over at Lucasfilm. Let's see.
Are they ill-tempered?
Absolutely.
Well, that's a start.
Wait, we have one more.
I'm just knock. Who's there?
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy, that must have been that was Mark Hamill. Is that Mark Hamill in for a meeting? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, he even had some of his own moments. I remember one person, like, he was like, oh, am I allowed to talk? I'm used to just giving long, silent stares.
Well,
which is a joke about the ending of The Force Awakens, as well as like how the press conferences were going, because you saw, I mean, some of those interviews that he did, he was even like, this isn't my Luke Skywalker anymore. This is Jake. Like, he had very strong feelings about that, because he had very strong ties, like most of the fans did, to that character and what that character means.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, only maybe George Lucas more so. and then probably Dave Filoni would have, you know,
Dave
or
Filoni, yeah. I mean,
fans from the old days would have a sense of ownership over the character. But yeah, Mark Hamill definitely has carried that character with him for decades.
like he is Luke is the thing. Like
Yeah.
he goes places and people are like, "You're a Luke, Luke
So Luke.
Skywalker." That's a big, it's a big deal, and he took that very seriously.
Yeah, no, he has, and he always has. And I mean, you think about that. If you get that casting wrong, does it not work? And does that movie not become what it became? And does it end up the saga never happens?
I think that was a part of it. You could say, yeah, like I can't imagine it with anyone else, obviously, because I've watched it too many times with those people. But I think also Star Wars, it came at a time, it did things graphically at a time better than anyone else was doing it differently.
Yeah.
It also told a story. And George Lucas was obsessed with Joseph Campbell. I'm obsessed with Joseph Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy, scholar, identified like the hero's journey, which everyone in Hollywood uses now. I studied it when I was in film school. I studied it on my own because it's like this guy went around the world, studied religion, myths, and how people learned psychologically, dreams and everything, and wrote down the common threads that connected all of humanity in our storytelling and learning. And he created like, this is the hero's journey. This is how people learn from stories. And that's like so basic throughout Hollywood now. Like Pixar, every single movie, I can show you the beats of the different like hero's journey, just because it's like literally psychologically ingrained in people. Mm-hmm. And so George was obsessed with that. So I think he was one of the first people to like specifically actually try and use that in films.
Yeah.
Not maybe the first, but when you also applied that to like the sci-fi and the graphics of it, which at the time were very impressive, you got something that was wholly unique and really started a pop culture revolution. Or some, not everyone, but
for many, yeah, it did. It created an economy, almost its own country in itself, with its own economy. Because
religion,
a religion, a corporation.
There are people that are literally like, I identify as a Jedi or whatever. Like that's an actual religion. I know. I think in England and maybe other places too. But I mean, I wouldn't go that far. But if you want to talk obsession, I mean, like when I was a kid, I read the books too. Like there's different levels of fans. Like some people just like the movie, but then there was the books, the video games, board games. Like you said, a cultural revolution.
Yeah, it absolutely did. So Kathleen Kennedy may have saved, speaking of cultural revolutions, but getting back to Jurassic Park, during the filming of
favorites.
Another classic that kind of changed the movie game, another movie that changed the movie game in the 90s and shifted things a little bit. But Jurassic Park filming in Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii island. During the filming of Jurassic Park, the original, there's a huge hurricane. Nikki, I believe, is that Hurricane Nikki in 1992. So a pretty brutal hurricane that came in 1992, Hurricane Nikki, and hit that island and rocked that island's world in 92. It was a pretty fierce hurricane. Also happened to be while they were there filming Jurassic Park, an unfinished Jurassic Park movie in the middle of production. So obviously production's halted during the hurricane, and the cast, crew, in fact, the actors, the three main players were on the beach as the hurricane was emerging, but before it got to it, before it really hit the island. And I think it was Sam Neill that told one of the actors, he said, I think we're all going to die.
Oh my God.
Here on this island. They were pretty scared. They were legitimately scared because the story of the news was pretty ominous about what was coming. And it was truthfully pretty big. So they're all held up in this conference room at the hotel where they're all everybody has been evacuated to this central area of the hotel. And they're all in this sort of big kind of conference room. And you know these hotels, how they'll usually have like collapsible walls that go between, and
Yeah,
they
like
can move
dividers. Yeah.
the dividers, so they can have different units, and they can have the wedding of the weekend in one unit, and then the bar mitzvah of the weekend in another unit, and then on the third one, no telling what the hell is going on in the third one. It's a bunch of old ladies meeting up for like some kind of club. Okay, that's just the what that weekend could be like. So they probably had all those things collapse, those dividers, and everybody's just there with the crew and the cast, and they're all there. The kids are there from the first movie, and Steven Spielberg, all there, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And Kathleen Kennedy decides she needs to get a plane for everyone and get off that island. She hitchhiked and she jogged, combination of hitchhike and jog, to the nearest airport. She hitchhiked in that storm, the very brutal storm, and she makes her way. And she's Steven Spielberg's right-hand person. She makes the executive decision to go ahead and do this. And she hikes and she jogs and she does whatever she needs to do. And she finally makes her way to the nearest airport. And while she has no idea what she's going to do when she gets there, how she's going to do it. You have to remember, this is pre-internet. This is pre-smartphone. So your options are limited. If phones are down, it makes a hell of a lot more sense why this might have been her only choice. She runs into this guy who, it turns out, just so happens he's a pilot, but he also happened to be the pilot from Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was at the airport loading he has a plane. He's loading a plane up, and Kathleen Kennedy recognizes this guy. And this is exactly the look he gave her when she saw him. It was, and he tried to hit her with the stick. So I don't know who the hell you are. I don't know who the hell you are, crazy woman. Get off my plane. And you got to imagine she probably looked pretty crazy because she was soaking wet, and she's in despair. She's in a panic. So he probably did try to attack her with that stick, freaking out.
Sure, why not?
No, she recognizes him. She says, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" And they start to talk, and they figured out that he worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark, which, lo and behold, she also worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark. She worked on all those Spielberg movies, and she's been on the set of the newest Indiana Jones 5 movie that's filming now. We're still doing Indiana Jones like 40 years later. It's unbelievable. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if we're still doing Indiana Jones 40. We'll see how that goes. They're trying to do Indiana Jones.
Yeah, 40. Supposedly.
That's the story. That's the attempt. And how scary is that to do that movie? Because Star Wars is different. And I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to jinx it, because I want them to finish the movie. We could talk about that another day.
Talk about that once the movie comes out.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
We'll see what there is to see.
We'll see what there is to see and what they came up with. But anyway, she recognizes him and says, "God damn it, I know you." And then they figure out that he was the pilot on Raiders of the Lost Ark. So get this, apparently that was the only movie he ever worked on. He shortly after decided, this movie stuff, it's just not for me. I just want to fly planes. That's all I ever wanted to do, was fly planes. So he goes back to just flying planes, because he was working on the movie. Could have been a professional movie pilot, I guess, pilot in different movies. But he decided, the movie was okay, but I'm ready to go back to working on just being a pilot. So there he was doing pilot stuff at an airport, doing what pilots do, and that would be fly planes. the pilot kind of range of stuff.
Have a wife in 3 different cities. No, God.
That too would be another pilot thing.
Just doing what pilots do.
Doing what pilot. Hey, he's not about giving up that life. He's not about to give up that life for sure. He's having too much.
I I was getting laid way more as a pilot than I was as a movie pilot.
He said the stars are getting way more than me.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the pilot because we have pilot groupies in the
Yeah.
cities that
I
hang
don't
out
need
at the
the
airport.
competition of movie stars. I just need to be a pilot and show up and be the most important person in the room.
I was doing just fine because there's a whole section of groupies that hang out at airports looking for the pilots.
I've learned how to break the surly bonds of Earth. Come along.
There you go.
Who
And
could
by the
say
way,
no?
not being sexist, there's some creepers that hang out at the airport waiting to meet stewardess as well. You can call them groupies if you want, but they're like, hello. You like to travel, huh? So you like sitting having a drink at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So you like to travel.
Gonna go pick up some chicks at the airport bar. What a life.
I would imagine that pre 9/11, back around this time in the 90s, the airport was like a nightclub. Like people that
Swingers.
People that would just hang out at airports. If you were around at airports around the 80s and 90s.
Well, I mean, they also didn't have like the internet to get in touch, so you wanted to meet a revolving door of people. An airport bar is not a bad place to do it.
It was before speed dating. It was before a lot of these other things that came along. There's no Tinder. So you go to the airport.
Go to the airport.
You get liquored up and then you go to town.
Wake up in a different state. Oh God. Not again.
Damn it. Oh, simpler times. Oh boy, the 90s. But yeah, Kathleen Kennedy, she ends up striking a deal with this guy. She gets him to commission a plane and he flies and picks up the crew. They get a helicopter first. They pick up the crew. They bring them back. They get a plane. And she saved not only the movie Jurassic Park, but she saved the crew, the cast, and got them off the island.
Well, that's
because
fantastic.
Of her boldness and bravery. And that's probably on that. She made her name in the business for doing stuff like that.
Now you're talking about like she was running through the storm. But
that's the story.
I couldn't like fly a plane out or a helicopter during a hurricane. So it must have been.
Well, they probably had to get him. I heard they flew a plane. They flew a plane out like it was some movie, like some adventure movie.
Like lightning and
winds.
I don't know. I haven't heard that. I haven't watched that. I'll have to check that out. But that's fantastic. That's a great.
Yeah. So she saved and then they finish. So what happened is they get back to, finish that whole thing up. They get back to California and they have an unfinished movie and they have a deadline, as you would expect for a movie like that. So they have to go and recreate some of the scene, the background on sound stages to emulate the look of some of the sets that they had in Hawaii that was on actual island that they had to go and recreate some of that back in California to match what they had in Hawaii. Because the island was damaged. There was all kinds of damage in the island. So they had to finish the movie. Yeah. Movie magic. They had to finish the movie in California, and that's before LED. So they had,
you don't want to have another like Apocalypse Now scenario where you're flying people to the jungle 5 times in a row for reshoots.
Oh my God.
It's just not worth it.
No.
Can we do this on a sound stage? Boom.
That's what they did. Yeah, they were probably relieved. They just like, okay, we're just gonna finish it and not have to go back. So anyway, that's the story of a positive press for Kathleen Kennedy. So first of all, I'll ask you this question: did she save Jurassic Park? Did she save that movie?
I mean, if they would have died otherwise, then obviously yes.
It would have been hard to finish it. They would have had to rewrite the ending.
Yeah, if like the director and the main actors all got killed.
They would have had to probably go and have like a scene where the dinosaur, it just eats everybody and it's off camera. You just hear the screaming and yelling, and then that's it. The end.
If they would finish it back then. I mean, it's not. Can I just leave it? It's cursed.
It could have ended up just in a safe somewhere, never completed. and that would have been the end of that. We wouldn't have Jurassic World, Dominion, Old Dominion, or whatever that was. Old Dominion, the new one. It's gonna be.
They would have released it though. They would have been like, to posthumously honor those who gave their lives shooting this film. Here it is.
Yeah, and also you would have missed out on more years of Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, more of him and
More of-
Spielberg.
With Spielberg and all the movies he did after Jurassic Park, which was a lot, pretty
Mhm.
significant. Schindler's List came post Jurassic Park, I believe. I think it comes after. I know Lincoln came after, well after Jurassic Park, but so many movies that came later. So there it is. Now, Kathleen Kennedy in 2021. Let's fast forward to 2021. We went from 1992. If we went in a time machine back to 1992 and said, Kathleen Kennedy, someday you're going to run Star Wars.
Into the what would she say? Well, I don't know. Woohoo!
you were going to be in. So here's the question though. Is she still running Star Wars? Is she actually running Star Wars right now?
Well, okay. Let's go back now in our time machine to like, what was it, 2012?
Yeah.
When they actually bought Star Wars, and then it wasn't until like, what, 2015 when The Force Awakens came out? So they bought Star Wars in 2012. They then had 3 years before they came out with their first movie. Now, I know when the movie business, you plan years ahead. Just look at Marvel's schedule. They have movie slots reserved 2 years from now. Because that's how far ahead your movies go at this point, because you're looking, because you don't just think, you got to think about when it's coming out, you got to think about how long it's going to take to shoot it, budgeting days for that, budgeting time for reshoots, and like if things go wrong, which you pray that they don't, but they certainly seem to happen a lot under her reign. But that's the thing. It was like you got The Force Awakens, and then you got The Last Jedi, and then and it was kind of clear that these scripts weren't written together, and there's stories out there, it's been proven fact that Rian Johnson wrote his own film kind of like with disregard to what J.J. Abrams was doing, and then J.J. got hired back, and that was after they fired the other guy, and and that was because of creative differences. Well, yeah, because back when he was working with J.J. writing the original 3 movies, because they had treatments written for those 3 movies, he was expecting certain things to happen in the second film, which then didn't. And so he's like, well, I don't know how to tell this story now. And Kathleen Kennedy and also after The Last Jedi, the higher ups at Disney actually got involved. Bob Iger literally had a whole speech where he said, the buck stops with me on Star Wars. Have you ever heard him come in and say something like that after a Marvel movie? People were like, Kevin Feige, you ruined this. We're blaming you as president of Marvel. And the Disney had to come in and say, look, the buck stops with me. No, they've never done that, because Kevin Feige's been running a pretty tight ship. Star Wars wasn't. And
in the latest Knives Out, Rian Johnson murders Star Wars. So that's the mystery.
Well, that was another thing, is that when I talk about Kathleen Kennedy just saying whatever, she says things that are going to look popular in the moment, but it's not, it's just based on that looking popular, and has no deeper, before The Last Jedi came out, she's like, we're giving Rian Johnson a trilogy. There's been no word of that since that movie came out from Disney or Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
And it wasn't it was never announced. Nothing is nothing. And so that's probably not going to happen. But they said that because she was just trying to amp people up for The Last Jedi. And then after The Last Jedi, she's like, we've got the writers from Game of Thrones. They're going to make Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And then season 8 tanked. And they were like, okay, let's get rid of these guys. And so these decisions, and then you look at Solo and how she fired the directors that then went on to make Into the Spider-Verse. She fired them when they were 75% done the movie, and had Ron Howard come in and patch it up. And that was already going to be in trouble because people were so pissed about what was happening with The Last Jedi. Some people, not everyone. I know that people, but there was a lot going on there. And their defense of that movie was completely mishandled, because their defense of The Last Jedi was basically, if you don't like it, it's because you're a bad person, which was just Are you kidding me? And then you take with what she said about not having any source material to work with, and that's after she took all of the expanded universe and said it's Legends now. And you have what happened with when they I don't know, it just seems like there's been a lot of stumbling, and the entire creative slate got wiped clean like around the time of Solo. And that's like, because there was going to be an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, there was going to be a Boba Fett movie. They were just like, no, we're not letting. And that's the question you ask: is she in charge? It certainly seems like Bob Iger, and now he's not the head of Disney anymore, but still, certainly seemed like he took a step in and shut some stuff down. And then they used the Mandalorian as a testing ground. I was in a Facebook conversation earlier where someone was like, well, no older fans are going to ever like anything Disney Star Wars done now. They're just never going to like anything. And I'm just like, I put up a meme that I was like laughing in Mandalorian, because I was like, I love that show. That's something that Disney has made. I enjoyed Rogue One. I liked The Force Awakens when that first came out. I don't enjoy it now because I know what comes after.
I know it's funny how a sequel, and I will say this, I didn't hate, but I was pretty negative on Last Jedi afterwards. Yep. And I went and saw it a second time, liked it less on a second go around than I did the first time, which was a bad sign. But after Rise of Skywalker comes out, I actually appreciated Last Jedi a little bit more, because I'm like, you know what? Last Jedi probably better than Rise of Skywalker. And now Rise of Skywalker tried to go in, and it was JJ trying to go back and fix a lot of the things that people didn't like. I think there was a lot of retcon. They should call it retcon of the Jedi instead of Rise of the Jedi, but it was too much too late on some fronts.
So indicative of the problem with the sequel trilogy. And when people are like, it's all Kathleen Kennedy's fault. Well, it's not all her fault, but she is in charge of picking the directors. Right. She's the one who hires and fires these people, or was,
right.
And so when you're blaming her, it's like, well, when my main complaint about these movies is how disjointed and interconnected they are, and what they do to in some ways ruin the original saga, like Vader's sacrifice being nullified, Luke being so that they can try and push new characters on us. And that goes back to the problem that I think with her is she got this thing, Star Wars, and just was like, I can do whatever I want with it now. I don't think she personally doesn't have like the lore knowledge, and you can tell that she doesn't care about it because she scrapped all of Legends, or said this is all Legends now, so that she can do whatever she wants with the story. But the thing is, you have people that for the past 40 years have been engaged in this lore, in these different things, and I know that the expanded universe was never like firm continuity, not like the movies, but there was different levels in Star Wars. And like the expanded universe was legitimately. It wasn't perfect by any means, but there was a whole lot of it, hundreds of books and movies and video games and like different stuff that all connected and followed that timeline. And you can't just be like, well, forget all of that. We're doing it my way now. It's like, that's not why I like Star Wars. I liked it for all the stuff that you just threw in the dumpster.
Tons of source material. Here's the
unbelievable.
Here's one of the memes that we have. Let's see. Planet Killer, System Killer, Fleet Killer,
Franchise Killer.
Just having some fun here, just some memes.
And that's the other thing. Like, I think she might have been a better producer than like president.
You were the chosen one. You were meant to expand the franchise, not destroy it. when you meet Kathleen Kennedy. Okay. This is all fun. I saw a security hologram of Kathleen Kennedy killing Star Wars. Now, you know what? To me, it's unexcusable not to get the sequel trilogy right. You had all this source material. You had the original big three, ready to go and willing to come to work and do it. And that's a big deal. Getting Harrison Ford willing to come back and do Han Solo again is a big deal. You had some Adam Driver, solid actors. You got Oscar Isaac, solid actors. Daisy Ridley, less experienced but capable. And as she's proven in her work with Force Awakens, I thought Force Awakens worked
I was,
for me.
yeah,
It
I
worked
was
for
fine
me.
with it. I was willing. I was like, where is this going? Let's find out. Because there were
It worked.
questions set up. I was like,
Yeah.
that was Obi-Wan's voice and that vision she had. I can't wait to see where they go with that. Well, scrapped because there was no cohesiveness. And that's the thing. You had how many years to prepare for this? And you couldn't get 3 movies that connected together.
Well,
You write them at the same time.
yeah, you
Even
get Kasdan. You had Kasdan and his son, the father-son team that came in and wrote Kasdan, by the way, Empire Strikes Back. Kasdan.
yeah. Well,
That guy.
they did like Solo. But
Yeah, but why don't you get them to write all 3? Like you said, you bring him back. You said, okay, look, we're bringing you back, but the deal is you got to do all 3, write all 3 for us. So just write them all together, and then we'll take care of the rest. Just write them all together, and everything would have been stitched together and made sense, and it wouldn't have been this 48-hour film festival of Star Wars where it's like, okay, here you got 3 things you need to include in the movie. Go, Ryan Johnson. And JJ, you got 3 things you need to include in the movie. Go, make your movie.
And then have it get cut and recut as Disney starts tampering because they don't trust her anymore. And yeah, I mean, I hear that movie was recut, 5 different times from like 12 different ideas because, again, they didn't have like a set conclusion on where the story was going and where it was ending. And how do you not do that? I don't understand. Like, how can you call her a great president or like a great leader when that's how she approached the sequel trilogy, was just to throw crap at a wall and see what was. I can't admire that. And then when I look again at the other movies, Rogue One had to have another director come in and reshoot the endings and stuff like that. Solo, where you fire the directors 75% of the way through and then have someone else come in and Frankenstein the rest of it. Like, how are these aren't good decisions. These aren't.
Tester said, let's face it, they should have started with Old Republic and built from there. No old characters, no Skywalker. Tell the story from the beginning when it all started, when lightsabers were cable powered. Now, yeah, we do want that. We do want to see that. I mean, I think you could have done Skywalker thing.
Yeah, well, you could have. I mean, if you're going to do the episodic thing, of course. But you should stay focused on that and then use that as your opportunity to then branch out into this big, huge universe. You can go anywhere. You can shoot stories that don't have to feel like the episodic series because they're not in the episodic series.
Yeah.
You could tell like space westerns. You can tell detective stories. You can tell like war stories. You can dive deep into the Force in different places. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, but they seem, incapable of taking that. I don't know.
Well, and right now we're it's kind of an interesting spot right now because we're in kind of we're with Mandalorian. We're kind of back to being happy and giddy again. As
Book
Star
of
Wars
Boba
fans.
Fett and Kenobi coming up. Those are things that I was worried about back when like The Last Jedi came out. I was like, oh my God, look what they did to Luke. What are they going to do to like, these characters?
Other iconic characters.
Terrified.
Yeah.
But that's about when Bob Iger came in. They wiped the slate clean. And then they said, let's start with The Mandalorian, see how people react to this series, as opposed to like a Kenobi movie and a Boba Fett movie. And then once people were responding really well to The Mandalorian, they're like, okay, we can branch out from here. And so that's why you've got so many other shows and stuff coming out in that. Now you do have other stuff that's taking place during different time periods, but there's at least 3 upcoming shows that are taking place during that Mandalorian time period.
Yeah, and that's still staying, and even though it's not directly Skywalker, it is a little bit Skywalker, as we saw in the last Mandalorian season. So they're still leaning heavily into all the old aesthetic and IPs of what we're used to seeing with Star Wars. Those trademarks. Now, with a new,
say it's made with. It's like that's also Filoni and Favreau. Favreau is like a golden boy. He can make anything wonderful. He gets he made Iron Man. He gets how to make these movies, and then Filoni is like all up in the lore. He knows Star Wars, and that's what you need. You need someone to. They're a great duo, and I think they're making really great strides with The Mandalorian and what that's putting forth.
Now, when this all began after Lucas sold to Disney, and by the way, he sold to Disney because he thought the world was ending. I truly believe that. That's never been really confirmed, but he did tell Seth Rogen that he thought that he believed in the Mayan calendar conspiracy that the world was going to end in 2012, and that he was building a spaceship to escape in case he needs to. He was going to. So I think he sold Star Wars thinking, "Fuck it, the world's going to end anyway."
He said
I'm
that
going to build.
Who? He said that to?
He told Seth Rogen.
Oh,
Seth Rogen.
Oh.
Seth Rogen went on Conan O'Brien. Yeah, Seth Rogen went on Conan O'Brien, and he went on Howard Stern. He wrote a book telling his stories of his career, and he told the story of meeting George Lucas when he was in a meeting with Spielberg. And they were working on a movie with Spielberg, and George tagged along, and Spielberg got a call and left the room, and he's in the room alone with George. And George's like, "How you doing?" He's like, "The world's not so good. The world's ending, and I got to get a spaceship built." Either George is the greatest troll ever.
Seth Rogen was really high.
It's true. He could have been just really high.
Yeah. But also, when I was a stand-up comedian, I had a joke about the Mayan calendar and people that believed in that. I was like, I always thought it was weird that people believed in the Mayan calendar, like, oh, the Mayans predicted when the world was going to end. I was like, the Mayans died before their calendar predicted. That calendar should have ended a lot earlier for them.
There's I've seen the meme here recently too. They thought that maybe they were dyslexic, and their calendar was supposed to say 2021. Yeah, they just had the numbers turned around. Sorry, people.
Oh well.
But you got an extra 10 years out, or almost 10 years, like 10 years out of that. But with Visions now, Star Wars Visions.
Oh, that looks fun.
It's getting rave reviews right now out of the gate from critics that have seen it.
Is it out?
It would be, I think it's coming out. Tester, do you know when Visions debuts?
Is that this couple days? I thought it was September, right?
Is that tomorrow? Is that going to be this week or next week? I should
excited about that.
I should know this, but I know people have already screened it and they're giving it rave reviews. They said the animation will blow you away. Actually, a critic by the name of Opie, who calls himself Opie, or his last name is Opie, he said that it is God tier level.
So it comes out this coming Wednesday, the 22nd.
They're going to do Wednesday like they did with Bad Batch, because Bad Batch did a Wednesday premiere and then they moved to Friday after that, I believe.
And I mean, all the what ifs come out on Wednesdays, so I don't know.
That's going to be a chock full Wednesday if we're going to get Visions on the premiere Wednesday, and also another what if episode.
But Visions looks awesome. I'm glad they're doing it because I was a fan. Like, they did similar things with the Matrix. They did like the Animatrix. They did a Halo one. They did Batman Gotham Knight is like and it's a bunch of different styles of animation too, which is something I really like. Like, however many different stories and however many different styles of animation as well. So it looks pretty awesome.
I think what looks like it's happening now, I think they're resetting the franchise with is it Acolyte?
The Acolyte.
Acolyte. I'll tell you this on the Visions. I think what they're doing right now is smart. If you want to try to create, so one thing Star Wars has done better than Star Trek. Star Trek did not find a way to keep moving towards younger audience and keeping young. They stayed kind of, in a way, they stayed kind of old. Even when they were making the new movies, it was with, they didn't do anything to create excitement with the young audience. And now Star Trek is course correcting because they've got this new series that's going to be coming out that's specifically, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is the content of Star Trek has been quality, but they've not created side projects like cartoons, like where Star Wars did Star Wars Legos. That establishes interest with kids early on and then gets them involved in Star Wars early on. And then they create a new fan base with new generations. And Star Wars has always done really good at that. Even before they did Star Wars Legos, George Lucas re-released the original movies to theaters, and he did a whole new versions of the original movies in terms of how they were redone,
Mm-hmm.
redigitized, new scenes were put in. But anyway, it was a way to create excitement and get young fans still involved. Where Star Trek never did cartoons, like they did cartoons, but they didn't do stuff to get kids interested in Star Trek. And that's kind of the reason why Star Wars is sort of kept moving down the train track, and Star Trek stumbled a little bit there for a little while. Now Star Trek is saying, whoa, we need to get, because eventually all our old fans are going to die off, and we're not going to have any of these young kids interested in Star Trek because we didn't start them young. And so we need to get, they're doing a series now that's going to be just for kids. It's a Star Trek series.
That's interesting. I don't know.
And Star Wars is doing this now with Visions because that's getting kind of like another generation interested in Star Wars. It doesn't lean into the Skywalker stuff. Meanwhile, you still have Skywalker stuff going on with Mandalorian. That's fine. You can have both going on simultaneously. And you don't have to ruin people's childhood to do either or.
And they did the Clone Wars. That was kind of, I know it was almost too childish to begin with, because I remember I originally didn't watch it at first because I watched the first couple episodes and I was just like, no, thank you. Like, this is for kids. And then I watched a little later. I kind of they evened it out a little bit better in the later seasons. I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was kids and adults could enjoy it. And then the last season that came out, and that was intense.
Yeah.
The anime. Yeah.
And the Clone Wars worked because I know people got interested in Star Wars because of Clone Wars. It grabbed that generation and made them Star Wars fans. So they've done really well with that, of being able to get new young fans. And so outside of what happened with the sequel trilogy, which was very polarizing, they've had success in other ways of creating a new young fan base and keeping people involved. Now there's Star Wars on TikTok. Star Wars is huge on TikTok. People displaying their lightsabers and doing lightsaber shows, and so it's going on. It's going on. It's continuing on. And now this anime series could create a new buzz with, that
anime,
the anime crowd. Maybe we'll see. I mean, it could be just, it could be. Now, I don't know what anime, hardcore anime people are going to think about it, because hardcore anime people are going to have their opinions when it comes to anime.
Well, they're probably going to like it because they're getting a lot of studios involved, that make anime that a lot of people enjoy. And that's the thing I was saying about the art styles. So you have I think at least 7 different art styles telling 9 different stories. So most of these stories are in their own unique art style. And so it gives you a lot of variety. And that's the thing, is you're probably not going to enjoy every episode the same, because they're going to be such different, because you know how all over the place anime can be. Sometimes it's blood and crazy, Attack on Titan, oh my gosh, we've got swords and we're attacking giants. And then there's another one where it's kids playing volleyball, and that's the entire anime. And it's what? Yeah, and or a cooking thing. It's there's a cooking anime. It's what? Yeah, but for some people they're yeah. So everything is possible. Anything is possible. And Star Wars was influenced heavily by Kurosawa and things like that. And I've already seen that one guy with the umbrella lightsaber, people are calling it, but it's got the and it's there's a guy that has a weapon like that in one of the I forget which film, but that scene is almost image for image from that movie. So except with lightsabers. Yeah.
Everything, everything's better with lightsabers.
Yeah.
When you make it lightsabers, whether it's swords or axes or whatever, just make it a lightsaber version of it, and it's awesomer. Tester also said that I read today that there are 8 Star Trek movies planned for the next 4 years. Wow. Yeah, and they've got the streaming app too, so they're also trying to load up and create a lot of content for Paramount Plus. Yeah. And Star Trek is the home of Paramount Plus, so that's an IP that is part of their library of IPs. Circling back around on Kathleen Kennedy, is she become sort of a glamorized HR over at Lucasfilm now? Filoni maybe more in charge of the creative end of things. Is she just still there? Is she still involved? maybe she has less power.
I don't have the insider knowledge, so
It's
I
all
can't.
it's all
It's
speculation.
I don't know. I can just say that like with the things I pointed out, how the slate got wiped clean, and you had Iger come in and say like the buck stops with me. So basically, when you're talking about Disney owning Lucasfilm and like on the same level Marvel, Disney never has to step in and be like the buck stops with me on Marvel. Like don't worry, we're coming in and taking control. They did do that with Lucasfilm to assure fans and shareholders that things were going to be taken control of. They wiped the slate clean. They started with a new show from Filoni and Favreau, which from what I've heard, she did not have tons of creative input on. Like that was not under her creative direction.
Yeah.
That was more under theirs. Like she's apparently more involved with the Acolyte and the High Republic, and that's. But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, she's not as involved with things like the Book of Boba Fett, the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, and that's just as well because I mean, again, my opinion. But when you have the hints of Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Force Awakens, and then you never utilize it within The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, and he's such a huge fan favorite, like, and you tease him with his voice and then never. And it's almost insulting to have Yoda, again, when Yoda comes back and hits Luke over the head and says failure is the best teacher. A, why couldn't have that been Obi-Wan Kenobi? And B, hitting Luke over the head and telling him failure is the best teacher is insulting because Luke learned that lesson in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi when he got his hand cut off, and then he looked at his father's hand and then his own robot hand and realized, oh. So, like, it just...
Say what you want, but Kennedy gave us Mandalorian, Rebels, and Force Awakens.
I mean, the Mandalorian, again, it's like that wasn't her brainchild. It's not like thank goodness for her on that. And yeah, tons of things happened under like Rogue One. I generally enjoyed, but if you look at the problems with that, Solo, I didn't really care about, but it was an okay movie. But it probably could have been better if there hadn't been so many tumultuous things on set. The problems with the sequel trilogy mostly boiled down to like differing directors and scripts and things not being, and that's whose job is that? That's hers to do. And when you talk about the Mandalorian, that happened after that slate got wiped clean. So it's not like thank you Kathleen Kennedy. It's more like thank you Disney for coming in and course correcting.
Yeah. And I mean, I just say keep Favreau and Filoni in the driver's
that's why
seat.
I say maybe she's a better producer. Like, yeah, get people for, but when you talk about did she get those people for that job? I don't even know, because in every other instance, she's been flipping and flopping on directors and hiring and firing.
That was a big issue with me, is that flipping and flopping directors. That's the thing I can't ignore. And I will give her credit for a good start with Force Awakens. And maybe staying out of the way with Mandalorian. I don't know. Again, that's speculation. I wasn't there, so I don't know how it all went down. I know she's a part of it. She's involved in it in some capacity. People wanted Filoni to run Star Wars from the beginning, and I have a feeling that he didn't have the full range of abilities to be able to do that. Now, I think he has the full range of abilities to run the creative end of Star Wars.
Yeah, I was even going to say, like, make him creative and make her, like, wheeling and dealing out there, business side of things.
Seems like maybe it's more like what's happening now, I hope. But in what I've kind of heard here and there through the grapevine, but there's probably nobody out there right now in 2021 better for running Star Wars creative than Dave Filoni. He's the guy. And it's just anybody and everybody that has been around Star Wars at all as a fan, we know he's been the guy for a long time. And then as far as making good story, Jon Favreau and executing, and they got Robert Rodriguez in there now. And I know, because I have a friend that went to school with Robert Rodriguez down in San Antonio, that he was making Star Wars short films way back in the early 90s.
He was so pumped to get to do Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. I was reading interviews from him. He was like,
yeah,
to get to bring this character back essentially that hasn't been seen for so long. And he's like, this is a character that like I'm in my backyard playing, making up fights, for this character when I'm a kid, and now I get to bring it to life on screen. I was like, that's the kind of passion I want to see from the people making Star Wars. Like, I want people that have loved Star Wars their entire life. What's wrong with getting, and that was a whole other thing, is like during the beginning of her reign at Lucasfilm, they were literally having employees drinking out of the cups that say fanboy tears. And it's like, you realize those are your customers. What are you doing? What is this? And it was very much like a high horse mentality. Like, we're better than you. And if you don't like us, it's because you're a bad person. This is Star Wars now, deal with it. And that has faded as things have kind of went haywire. And now things are, I think, a little bit more under control. I haven't been seeing as many things like pop up lately, but maybe that's just because like the sequel trilogy is over and I don't know. Maybe there literally wasn't as much going on there for a little while because they cleared the slate and you just had The Mandalorian, and now you've got new things coming out, Bad Batch, Book of Boba Fett, and now we've got like tons of things in development, but that was, again, because they said we're stopping and we're going to assess where we're going from here. Thank goodness. I'm glad they did that. From what I can see, there has been market improvement.
Everybody right now at Star Wars, thanks to that last season of Mandalorian.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Yeah, everything's cool beans now.
I loved it.
Over there. And I like Force Awakens too. I didn't have a problem with Force Awakens. I thought Force Awakens was a good start.
I liked it when I saw it in theaters, and I was looking forward to The Last Jedi. I was looking forward to The Last Jedi so much so that I went to see it in a midnight screening, a double feature, back to back, The Force Awakens into The Last Jedi. And then I was like, what? I literally walked all the way out to my car before I said anything. I was like, I don't think I like that. And I was like,
wow,
which was crazy to me. I never thought I would feel that way. It was a very odd experience.
Yeah, it is our experience to walk out like that with that feeling.
I didn't see it coming. Yeah.
Now a little talk about Zombie Avengers. What do you think about the Zombie Avengers episode that we saw last week? What if?
Dude, wasn't it just a lot of fun?
It was so much fun. I'm like, what a treat that we're getting this brought to our homes in that little streamer box onto our TVs. On Wednesday, you can get up in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and that's waiting for you.
Yeah. And
how cool of a life is it right now, other than the fact that we've had a pandemic and other chaotic things going on in the world, but in terms of entertainment, god damn it, how cool was that?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal.
And to get that level of entertainment. Now, this is got a great zombie pedigree because Kirkman, the god of the father of zombies,
The
Walking Dead, was one of the creators of this Marvel zombie concept, and also he's become a master of gory superhero genre with Invincible. So it's bringing the two things he does best together.
Yeah. There was a fair amount of zombie violence in this too. I was wondering how far they were going to go with it, but we see people get cut in half. We see Falcon get cut in half this way vertically.
Yes.
We see Captain America get cut in half horizontally. So I mean, yeah, they went for it, and it's fun with these what ifs because every episode it's a new thing,
Yeah.
It's a new kind of like, what if this happened? What if there were zombies? All right. Like, and then like, that's over. And then you go to, what if this happened? What if that happened? So you can take some of these things less seriously.
We got an article that this is a big story now, a little bit of a breaking news story. Maybe you've caught wind of this. Let's pull our little popcorn off so we can see. Okay, overlay off. Okay, there it is. And then let's bring this back in. Okay, there it is. This article, this is from Comic Book, and Mark Miller, who does a newsletter. He has his own newsletter. Everybody has their own newsletter now or blog. But Mark Miller, and I love that because everybody can be their own media. They cut out the middleman. They go straight to the fans. But Mark Miller said in his newsletter, he basically all but confirmed that he's working on a live action Marvel Zombies. based on the original.
So a quote
And
up there said, "But you didn't hear that from me."
he said that you didn't hear that from me, which basically is like, okay, you've confirmed that we're
Yeah.
getting live action Marvel zombies. The first thing
It's
I went
pretty
to,
hilarious that they included that in his quote. Like,
you didn't hear that.
he just told them not to mention that he said it, and they're like, "Let's include that in the quote from him."
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Mark Miller. So yeah, working on that. They've also been there's also a Secret Wars project down the road that's being planned. Marvel's got a lot of things in their back pocket. They're going to be just fine for quite a while. Anybody that's worried about how much longer this universe can continue, they've got plenty in their back pocket. So here's the thing: live action zombies. The first thing I think about, and we saw that animated version with What If, and then thinking about how they're going to do that with live action. First thing I went to is like, well, they're not going to be able to get all those actors. Like,
No.
Robert Downey Jr. is not even under contract. Chris Evans, that's kind of a question mark. Although I think he's going to come back at least for a little bit to do some other characters in the multiverse. Maybe I'm might be building myself up too much for that. But Chris Evans, then there's Scarlett Johansson. There's a lot of actors, and then by the time you get around to making that movie, no telling who else is going to have moved on.
Well,
that from the originals.
I mean, I can give you my theory.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. First of all,
Okay,
that doesn't matter. People are going to show up for Marvel Zombies without those original Avenger stars. You can get completely different people playing those roles. It could be its own thing. It doesn't have to be the same universe. It can be its own thing, and people would be just fine with that. You could bring in whoever to play. You get Pedro Pascal to be Tony Stark. I just his name I've thrown out to be Tony Stark. You could get whoever, another actor, the guy that's in Top Gun Maverick with Tom Cruise to be Peter Parker. Whoever, you could just shove whoever you want in there. People are going to show up to see Marvel Avengers. The other possibility is use whoever you have when the time comes. If you still have, Bucky and the new Captain America, you put them in the zombie movie. If you still have the new Black Widow's sister, Natasha's sister, you use her. Yeah, you use her. So there's the two ways they could go. Well, what's your theory?
Well,
or did I commandeer one of your theories?
First of all, I mean, partially. First of all, I mean, as zombies, how many characters do you actually need to get? Because you can put anybody in zombie makeup and make them look like somebody else. You know what I mean? Right. So you can just make them look like a zombie version of, and you don't need to get the actual actor. Second of all, like you said, different universes. Okay, mark my words. Robert Downey Jr. will be back as Iron Man / Tony Stark.
I agree with that.
We'll see.
I agree with that, and I think we might even get Hugh Jackman like as a one-off in something with Deadpool.
Well, because Ryan Reynolds will make him do it. Hugh Jackman's more of a possibility because of Ryan Reynolds, but Robert Downey Jr. I'm not sure. I mean, I know he likes money, so
I mean,
who doesn't?
Who doesn't? I mean, he's Tony Stark. Of course, he loves money. He loves the power. He loves the glamour. He loves the
whole thing with the MCU right now is that they're introducing the multiverse. Like everything's heavy on that right now.
No, that's right now.
Witch,
the zombie stuff. We don't need the zombie stuff right now. I mean, that's gonna be way down the road.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is they're establishing right now the multiverse so that they can tell whatever stories they want down the road.
True. Yeah.
We can do a Marvel zombie stories and it won't affect the MCU story. It's not going to be like the past 10 years where every single movie that came out was like, this is the prime timeline. Now we've got a multiverse. We've got multiversal timelines. We might have multiple timelines going. They'll probably establish a prime timeline, but that's the stuff we're going to be seeing in Spider-Man and Multiverse of Madness. I guarantee you between those two films, they're going to lay out exactly how the MCU is going to be going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a little different. And even Kevin Feige has said, now we're in a place now where we're going to be going back in the past and telling stories from the past. We'll still be telling the stories because we saw that with Black Widow. We're telling stories in the present, and we can go into the future because there was also a story that came out now a few months ago about the futuristic Spider-Man project, which is based off a comic book. I think it's
And
Spider-Man.
because Sony only owns Spider-Man, so they're making a whole Spider-Verse.
They're doing Spider-Verse. They are. They're doing Spider-Verse. Yeah.
There have been big hints, spoiler alert, but big hints that Venom end credit scene is going to feature Tom Holland, and something about Venom possibly being at the end credit scene of Spider-Man.
They're really hyping up the end credit scene for Venom.
Yeah.
And no one has said for sure what it's, that it's speculation that it's Tom Holland, but they're really building that up.
Marvel rumors in your face.
In your face.
Marvel rumors in your face.
Yeah, so they're really, that Venom end credit scene better be pretty good. Now, I will also say I really like the end credit scene, and this is a little off subject, but not way off subject. I really love the end credit scene for Shang-Chi. With spoiler if you haven't seen Shang-Chi, setting it up right now, about to say that Mark Ruffalo and Captain Marvel show up. And I like that. The hologram of them showing up. What did you think?
It's end credit scene, hinting at.
You saw it. I'm not spoiling it for you, am I?
No, I saw it, yeah.
Okay, I figured you had, yeah.
Let's see. Tom. He said Tom signed on for 3 more movies with Sony.
3 more movies with Sony, and they said
he will not meet Venom. They might have changed their tune on that.
You disagree with that? You think it is going to be Tom Holland for the
Venom? Yeah, and I just saw this photo of Tom Hardy wearing a Spider-Man No Way Home production hat.
Oh, interesting.
There was just a photo that dropped of that, and they've literally said Sony's been dropping hints about the Spider-Verse, and that a lot of questions about like what's going on with them and Marvel are going to be answered in this new movie. So it definitely sounds like and the fact that they only have Spider-Man and like Spider-Man's villains, they're doing like Kraven the Hunter or whatever coming up. But they're going to be doing something with Spider-Man. Now, will they end up using a different, like maybe they'll be using Miles Morales or something and not Tom Holland, and Tom Holland will still be connected to more of the Marvel movies and stuff like that. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but there have been major hints, rumors from the studio executives and stuff themselves that it's happening. It's happening.
Let me ask you one more thing on the zombie Marvel. For a live action, what do you want to see them do with live action that they could not do with the What If episode that they haven't already done?
I guess, well, you just have the opportunity to tell the full story. This one was kind of just like, zombies are here, and it didn't even end.
Yeah, it kind of went into, it didn't even give us the... Do you think they're going to do a second part of that later?
Well, the mid-season trailer that came out for What If kind of shows second halves to a lot, because a lot of these episodes so far kind of ended with cliffhangers. Like the Loki one ended with them, Captain Marvel shows up for like a second, and they were thawing out Captain America. So like a lot of the endings of these have just been cliffhangers or things that could be continued. Even the one with Doctor Strange where he's sitting alone at the end of his universe, he can figure out how to tunnel between universes. That could be a huge deal.
And then we are getting evil. That was confirmed. Evil Doctor Strange was coming back. It was part of the mid-season trailer as well, right? Yeah. So that's...
but I need to rewatch it and see if that was, because they use clips from the current episodes too, so I need to make sure it was not something that was from that episode, but I hope that he's coming back.
Recycled footage, or Evil Doctor Strange has got some issues. It's pretty dark indeed. So here's the thing. Okay, let me go talking about Spider-Man. The question of the hour: are they going to let the fan base down? Are we not going to get Toby and Andrew in No Way Home? Are we in fact getting them?
I can't confirm either way again, but if you were to ask me, I would say,
if you were to have to wager on it,
where would you put your yes?
You put your chips on yes,
just because like why would you be bringing back other villains from past Spider-Man
Right.
movies? Like,
And making
now
that a
I'm
big
not saying
part.
you couldn't make those villains show up, but literally using the
Right.
same actors. Come on, why would you be doing that if it's not some sort of like multiverse Spider-Verse event? And if you're doing that, why the wouldn't you get the other Spider-Man? Because that's the obvious move.
Yeah, I mean, if they couldn't have gotten them, then you have to go back to the 70s. And you have to get that actor that played Spider-Man in the TV series that was on CBS in the 70s. And then you could go and cast someone to be Miles Morales live action. Maybe you bring in Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
Cast a Spider-Gwen.
I mean, there's tons, like that first trailer that we saw that could just be like the first 30 minutes of that movie. Like there could be a whole nother hour and a half. Like
we could be just getting Spider-Pig. Could be just
and whether it's the talking one or the one from The Simpsons, I'll be happy either way.
Either way, maybe both. Maybe both.
It's a big multiverse. Infinite, some would say.
It's infinite. It's so infinite. Oh my goodness. Well, either way, I mean that movie probably one of the most anticipated films since Infinity War and Endgame. No Way Home. It's an event movie.
Well, because Spider-Man has like before the Avengers even, Spider-Man had a bigger fan base than like
oh yeah,
Iron Man, Captain America, any of those people. So
I would say among a younger audience, Spider-Man is the most. I mean, if you research, Batman is supposed to be the most popular superhero right now. But I think among younger audience, Spider-Man is still the most popular superhero.
There's
and
a lot of web heads out there.
Yeah. So I mean, as a kid, I think I'm a Batman guy as an adult, but as a kid, I was all in on Spider-Man, and I still love Spider-Man now. But I think kids always related to Spider-Man because he's a kid too. And that's
definitely younger, yeah, like joking too, fun. Like that was what I liked about the Amazing Spider-Man, was that when he was actually like in the suit and webbing things and messing with the cops and stuff, like that was really funny. Like, oh no, not a tiny knife. Oh, my one weakness. And then he like webs the guy. You know, that was good.
Anyway, we're in for a fun, and because of Shang-Chi's success, it had a great second week. These movies that we were worried about getting postponed, most of them will look like they're staying on schedule. So that's the good news, because Shang-Chi really had the weight of the movie world, the cinematic world on its shoulders back in early September.
Yeah, there were a lot of people looking at that.
So
wondering how it's going to do. And it did pretty good, you know?
It did pretty good. It did damn good, and it saved cinema. It wasn't Kathleen Kennedy that saved cinema. It was Shang-Chi.
Good God.
What pressure.
Saving cinema.
I know Tester is in the Netherlands, and he said, guys gave fun. Guys gave fun. It's nearly 5 a.m. here, so got to go get some sleep. He works at 9 a.m. Man, you got to get some dark coffee, some strong coffee.
A whole.
And you're working on isn't it Saturday?
3 hours of sleep.
Is it Saturday there, or is it on the same day? Okay. Time to get into agree or disagree. Chris Cassidy, are you ready to agree and disagree?
I don't know. I have no strong feelings one way or the other. Just kidding. Just a wonderful Futurama quote.
You're gonna stay neutral. I love it.
The neutral planet.
Stay neutral. The neutral planet.
Why does a man turn neutral? Lust for power? Gold? Just a wicked heart full of neutrality.
That's me. That's my life. I'm Mr. Neutral. All right. Number one. I don't even know what that means. It is a little bit. It is a little bit. I was meant to be in Switzerland. I'm a pretty neutral person. Okay. I don't like conflict. I don't like conflict, damn it. I do love chocolate. So I need to move to Switzerland as soon as possible. Do they still have Marvel and Star Wars there? DC?
I hope so.
Okay, then I'm going. Okay. Okay, I gotta talk to my wife and son about this though before I just pack up and go to Switzerland. I'm gonna take them with me, of course.
To learn Swiss.
Swiss. We'll have to learn Swiss.
I
We can
guess
get
that's
we can get some jobs there. We can get some jobs there. We'll go there. Okay, number 1 on this episode 151 of the Thunderpop Show. Another Marvel. Will Ant-Man 3 take a much darker tone from the first and second Ant-Man and Wasp movies? Because the big clue to this is the fact that Jonathan Majors is part of the cast. Confirmed. Because of him. Kang, does that mean this movie, the first movie, especially the first movie, has a lighter tone? Some people would even call it one of the kind of the movies that's sort of a break between the intense Marvel. You got Paul Rudd cracking the funny jokes, the one-liners. You've got the funny characters, his sidekicks, kind of funny, kind of a little bit more. The most comedic, I think, of the Marvel movies is the first Ant-Man movie.
And the second one's pretty hilarious too. Like
second one too.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy that because that also introduced Agent Woo. And with the close-up magic that he's doing, it's like best magicians in the MCU, and it's like Doctor Strange or Ant-Man doing a card trick. Yeah, he's really funny. That sense of humor that he brings to it, but it might take a darker turn. I mean, we might get into more of the fact because he was gone for like the 5 years, and his daughter grew during that time, and he was away, and it would probably have something to do with that. Not to mention, like you said, I mean, Quantum Mania is what they're calling it. So they're probably going to be delving more into and we now know that like that's one way that you can time travel. It was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that they used it like for time travel and multiverse travel as well. And I know that's not like canon anymore, but that's still stayed pretty connected with the MCU and was going based on like what they were doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we're talking about like all this multiverse of madness stuff happening, that could be the way that Kang breaks into the prime timeline or whatever. Yeah. And it might be through time travel because again, Kang's from the future. So it might just be the Kang from that timeline using time travel.
Yeah.
Because like they said in Loki, he says, see you soon. Because there's about to be tons of him from different multiverses. So the first Kang we see might just be like Kang before he even has multiverse travel, just time traveling back in time. And that's the thing about Kang is he's a time traveler. So this might be like the third time he showed up, but it's the first time that you're seeing him because the other 2 times he did it, he was farther in the future or whatever. Yeah, there's tons of stuff they can do with that.
Yeah, and that's part of the fun and the mystery. Is this going to be the next time we see him? Does he show up before then? Which would mean him showing up in No Way Home.
People didn't even know that actor was going to be in Loki, and the way that they hid that was also they just didn't tell people he was in it, and then they also called him like He Who Remains, so it was a variant.
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna, but will we see another variant? They could do almost anything at this point, but
yeah, sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. Number 2 on this agree or disagree, Star Wars Visions, as we talked about earlier, and this I referenced. One critic said that it was so good. His critic last name is Opie. He said that it's so good. He called it the future of Star Wars. He said that it could be the new direction for the entire franchise. Do you agree or disagree that this could be the direction going forward?
I guess I would say disagree just because I don't know exactly what they mean by that entire new direction. Now, if they mean something like you could make Star Wars anime. Oh, I think I might have. Did I cut out there?
No, I've got you.
Okay. I was gonna say like you could make different Star Wars anime. The thing about these like Star Wars Visions is I don't think it will be. Now I could be wrong, but I didn't think it was telling like one unified story or even interconnected stories. I thought the only thing that unified this was that it was like Star Wars. Other than that, they were free to like tell what stories they wanted as long as it was Star Wars and use what animation style they wanted. So if he's saying something like Star Wars doesn't have to be limited to like Star Wars Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 2, then I'm all on board with that. Yes, like let's go different directions, tell different stories of different styles in different ways. Yes, then I agree with that, but I just don't know exactly what he means by that. But other than it's great and people should check it out. And I think there's going to be something there. Again, you're probably, if you're not an anime fan, and even if you are, I doubt you're going to like every episode, but there's going to be such variety there that some of them you're going to like absolutely love.
Yeah. Yeah. And anime, of course, has gone mainstream. I mean, it's become, a thing that's pretty wide scale. Number 3, there is a rumor circulating. We're talking about Indiana Jones earlier too. There's a rumor circulating that Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who's going to be co-starring with Harrison Ford in the new Indiana Jones 5, we hope they finished that movie. But the rumor circulating that Phoebe Waller-Bridge will be taking over the Indy franchise as the future face of the franchise. Of course, I don't know exactly what that would mean. And again, this is a rumor that circulated on the interwebs this week. So take it with a grain of sea salt.
Right.
But do you agree or disagree that this is a good move if it's true?
I don't think it's a good move. I think it's a very interesting topic when they try and do something like this, like gender swap a main character, like a whole franchise around like literally just taking a character and gender swapping it. Like this is the new Indiana Jones, but it's a chick, or this is the new 007, but it's a chick. And it's like, why are you trying to just change the gender of this established character? Make a new character or talk about a different character that like doesn't have to be what this other person is. Like, you can make it in the same style. Like Han Solo is kind of a rogue type. You can have a woman in that role. You can have a woman be Lord. Hey, Debbie.
Debbie's here. Yeah. Hi, Debbie.
Co-host from MCU Mondays with me.
Yes. Coming in on how you doing?
Glad you could make it. And yeah, no, I don't think you should. I don't think gender swapping is the way to go. I think you should just make. Yeah, and actually, it's funny that you just grabbed Thor's hammer because that's they're about to do Natalie Portman. Now that it's different when it's like a storyline,
different thing there, a little bit different.
Yeah. Because like Thor's still going to be in that, and there's like that's different, and that's different than like this is the new fate. Like, and we'll see. That might be what they're trying to do with Thor. Is that? But I don't know.
Well, and the whole
I have
thing
no
is,
idea how far that's going to go. But I don't think it's great. It's kind of like, let me trade in on this popular name, but then also we're changing it to fit with what we want to do. And it's like, well, then stop trading on the name because it's not that. Or you have to make the character exactly the same, but these characters don't necessarily make sense.
I mean, obviously she's not going to be actual Indiana Jones because Indiana Jones is in this movie with her,
right?
In the same movie. Now, do they want to continue with this universe? I wouldn't be surprised. It's another IP that they acquired from George Lucas. They want to probably try to stretch their value on that IP as much as possible. And Harrison Ford getting of age now to where he's not going to be able to carry it on past this movie. And some question whether he could carry it on with this movie.
He did get hurt again, and
he did get hurt again. Don't let him fly a plane while he's filming that movie.
And other people are saying he's for sure going to die in this one because he's like, I want to be done with it. So like, I'll be like kind of like in Star Wars, like I'll be in this as long as you promise to kill me off.
I hope they don't because I want him to stick with the original. I want him to keep it connected to the original Young Indiana Jones series, where old Indiana Jones came back with an eye patch because he had lost his eye and was telling the story from him. And then they have the younger Indiana Jones in the flashback of the stories he's telling. So I hope they keep connected to that. Although I know a lot of people probably never even heard of that show, but I like continuity. I'm a continuity
if he stayed
nerd.
On in like a mentor position, I could see it. But the thing is, I doubt he'd want to do that.
I mean, I'm fine with him walking.
Good, but
I'm fine with him walking off into the sunset and being done with it after this movie and retiring, and at most make a cameo maybe down the road, in some capacity. But I think you could do a spinoff. That's fair. It's not going to be the same thing. It may not do well. Maybe it does well. Maybe it depends on how you approach it. by the time you go forward with another character in this universe, you're well into the 1960s. So it's also a much different era. You're going to be telling the stories of this new character, whatever her name is. Maybe it's Nevada James, or it's North Carolina Williams. I don't know. Carolina Williams, the Adventures of Carolina Williams. She's from North Carolina. Her name is Carolina. I'm already writing her character's story, but you could take her, you could do a spinoff. It's going to be different. Like you said, it can't be the same thing. It can't be Indiana Jones. It's going to be something different. It can be a continuation of that universe. Sure, it could have a little bit of a Tomb Raider vibe.
And that's what I was going to say, is like, you have other characters that were like Tomb Raider, Lara Croft.
Yeah.
It's not like she's...
I think they want to do Lara Croft, their version of Lara Croft.
And then I'm saying, like, why don't you just... Yeah. And so... But it's like, you have the character of Indiana Jones, but you want to trade in on that name, but I want it to be for a woman. It has to be for a woman. I want to trade in on 007, like, because that's another one that they're saying they're going to replace with, like, possibly a... And it's like...
Yeah.
Part of these characters is... Like, feel free to make a new character that's a woman that can do whatever you want. But why do you you're trying to trade in on the popularity of these characters and change the character at the same time? And it's like, that's not going to be, that's going to be trouble.
Well,
because you're going to have people expecting the classic and then getting, it's a, again, I would just say, the gender swapping, like, reboot, that's not a great idea. If it's a continuation at a different point in time, that's at least, you know, I can see that. If they move to a different time period, maybe it's like a relative ancestor or whatever, and you want to connect it to the Indiana Jones, like, I get that, without saying it like, this is Indiana Jones now, but
right.
You know, I get that. I can see it
right on the coattails a little bit of the IP.
You're still riding on that. Mm-hmm.
It may be work. You know, the gender swapping remake has not worked yet. And it's not, you know, I wasn't against a female Ghostbusters, but I think it's so far it's been the execution of all the movies they've tried it, of all the franchises that have tried it, they haven't executed it right.
It's too obvious, like, just pandering. Like, you're just doing this so you can say, like, we got an all-female, you know, like, how's the movie itself? Well, that's trash, but don't worry about that. We got an all-female cast. Like, well, why didn't you make a good movie? Focus on making a good movie. What's your story?
Yeah.
Does it require an all-female cast? No. And it's like, and it's not like, were they sexist for the original Ghostbusters and filming with just dudes? Like, well, if you want to look back at history, people have always been, like, more sexist or more idiotic or whatever, and that continues even today. So society changes and things like that. But when you're so obviously pandering, like with Ghostbusters 2016, that the entire, here's this movie, well, it's Ghostbusters but with chicks, and it's like, and that's it. That's like the whole, well, I don't know.
By the way,
does that make it better? Apparently not. Apparently, just switching the gender does not immediately make something.
Still got to have good story. You still have to have good writing. Have to good execution.
Special effects. The special effects were trash in that movie.
Yeah, they did miss on that, which is
bad.
That was unforgivable. I think they did a disservice to they did a disservice to those actors that were in that movie.
Was too much comedy too. It was like Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. There was an element of actual like,
there was some intensity there,
and in the way they shot it, it's like the opening scene of Ghostbusters is the library where the person gets attacked, but you never get to see it, and that's part of like revealing over time. There wasn't that sort of like cinematic effort put into this. It was just like, we'll change them to chicks and like improv the entire movie as well, because there was no script. There were so many things wrong with that film.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how you thought you could get away with it.
Yeah, it was badly executed. I think you connected to the original universe. You can still have those characters be female, but the fact that it wasn't connected to the original universe and then you wipe that away was the biggest problem.
is connected. The one that's coming out now,
Yeah.
like Ghostbusters Afterlife or whatever.
And the
And
buzz
that's-
on the new Ghostbusters, there's a lot of buzz behind the new Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
They really got it right this time.
And that's one of the main characters is like the granddaughter or daughter.
Right.
Yeah, granddaughter, I think, of
she's a kid. Yeah.
Ekman.
Yeah. And she looks like him. So well casted, and then they made her really look like with the hair, the glasses.
I've been looking forward to that for a long time. I don't even know when it comes out at this point.
We've been waiting so long for that because it was supposed to have gotten that long time ago, and
as is the way with movies these days. We've been waiting 3 years since I saw the trailer for this.
Every like 9 months, hey, we got a new trailer for you. And we got a new little tidbit to keep you excited and keep you interested. Here's something you didn't know about the movie. They come out of hiding every
Don't forget about us. That's what happened with like Free Guy.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds started doing it. He's like, wait, didn't this movie come out a year ago? Oh crap. And then there was one where he started out as like, a movie that looks like it was sold off in the fire sale after Disney bought Fox. And I was just like, oh my God. So brutal. I heard that was really good too. I need to go see that one.
I saw Free Guy. I love Free Guy.
Oh yeah.
If you like Ryan Reynolds, if you love the Deadpool, if you love gamer culture, all those things, you get plenty of it. Plenty of the best versions of it. It's
definitely gonna check that.
A lot of fun. Yeah, I saw it in a drive-in movie theater.
Oh, nice.
Of all places. Yeah, it was a cool movie to see at drive-in. Okay, close it out. I'm gonna do a quick thoughts and advice. Damn it. I'm just going to tell you this. If we ever have another toilet paper crisis ever again, and I hope we don't to the level that we had several months ago or over a year ago, just get a bidet, people. Get one now. Call up your local bidet dealer. Because now I got to take my own advice because I've not got a bidet yet.
I just duct tape a super soaker to the inside of my toilet.
That's all you do. You can make up a homemade one. You could run a water hose into the house. But I'll tell you what, get a bidet. I tried a bidet. I got a family member who my father-in-law has a bidet, and it will change your life once you've used a bidet.
Bidet to you.
Bidet to you as well. Chris
bidet to you.
That's bidet. Bidet to you. Bidet. And bidet to everyone out there on this. What way to close it out, right? No, get your bidet. It will change your life. It's refreshing, but different refreshing than like when you have a cold, refreshing drink on a hot summer day. It's a different kind of refreshing, but it's refreshing. It's tintillating. Go get you a bidet or run a water hose or the super soaker. I like the super soaker idea. Just keep a super soaker next to the toilet, and then there you go. There it is. Bidet to you, Chris Cassidy.
Bidet to you.
Everyone out there have a bidet to you. And have a good day, hour, year, month, second, millisecond. Next week is the season finale of season 6. A big episode because we're going to be having our tribute episode to the late, great Johnny Lightfoot, who was a key contributor to my show for many years. And we miss you, Johnny. And I'm looking forward to doing this show. And then I've also got a special show I'm recording on Sunday. I'm going to try to get this right. Black gay geek comic from TikTok. Viral nerd on TikTok, geek. And he turns out great content. I'm going to be recording a show with him on Sunday. That's going to be coming out at the beginning of the week. And then at the end of the week, I'm going to have Jillian Owens here, who was Johnny Lightfoot's co-host on his other podcast. Because Johnny did 2 shows. He did my show, and then he went over and did a show with Julian, Matinee Talk. So I'm going to have Julian on, and we're going to talk old times about Johnny and show his best up. We're going to show clips from his life as a podcaster and YouTuber. Okay, Chris Cassidy, I'll see you. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Thank you for spending this Friday night with me. Good God.
Lovely time. Thank you for having me on.
I know you could have found something else to do, but you did this.
I love being on the show with you. I love being able to have you on MCU Mondays and then over on It's a Vase Productions. Getting together, chatting it out with you. Always a good time.
And Debbie, thanks for coming in, and also Tester that was with us earlier that had to go to sleep. It's always good to see Debbie. I wanted to get Debbie on my show sometime too, if she'll do it.
I'm sure she will.
She's
one of the best. The reason that she became my co-host on MCU Mondays is because when I started doing the show, she was just always available, and I was just like, all right, since you're here every week, you're my co-host. And she was like, cool. And then anytime I ever need anything else, she's
there.
Usually, yeah. I mean, good to go. She said, hell yeah.
Yeah. And she's always prepared, and she's always got great takes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I love the two of you all together. Well, the trio, you got the trio.
For now, yeah. David's been with us for usually every week, but he might be spinning off to do his own Star Wars themed show. We're going to see where that goes. But for now, yeah, it's me, Debbie, and David. And we have a great time on MCU Mondays, man.
Catch it. It's 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern on Monday nights. YouTube, Geek News Now, their channel. Everyone have a great night. We'll see you later. There it is, GNN. There it is. Outro, people.
Thunderpop is a Hit the Bricks production.